Hardy fiber cement siding is proven to withstand water, pests, and fire better than wood-based siding. And it looks better while doing it. Hardy siding has been chosen for 10 million homes and counting. See the proof at jameshardy.com.
Funbelt Podcast, Dusty Thibodeaux with Warhawk Report, Jeremy Harper of Hellraiser, coming soon, Shane Mettlen of the Daily News Record. It's almost championship season, but right now we have championship action going on with women's soccer kicking off on Monday. And Jeremy, there was already a huge upset. Marshall over App State 2-1. Georgia State downs Southern Miss 1-0. We have the opening round over with.
Yeah, and some of those programs, we were talking earlier offline about Marshall. Marshall pretty much known for their men's soccer program. Their women's soccer program, perhaps not as prolific, but gets the W over App State, who I believe, if I was paying attention correctly, and I think I was, Appalachian State was coming at the end of the season pretty hot. So that's a big win for Marshall.
It's a big win anytime you're a 10 seed and you advance beyond that first round game. They'll play again on Wednesday against number 2 South Alabama. Your Red Wolves get former show guest Coach Hines and her Old Dominion Monarchs.
Yeah, I wasn't wild when I saw that. Me being a citizen of Arkansas State, always rooting for the Red Wolves, seeing that my Red Wolves would open against Old Dominion, which I know just plays excellent soccer. Had a down year this year, Dusty. Did not win the Sun Belt outright in the regular season. But and Arkansas State did end up beating ODU earlier in the year. So it should be a good match, but it's going to be a tough match. It's like when you have to face a team with such a great reputation and such a storied history for excellence, it's going to be a tough one for Arkansas State. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to have to fire that up on ESPN3.
Always starts off at 11 o'clock and runs through 6:30 on Wednesday, grinding through to the Sunday championship on ESPN plus 1 o'clock. I still like the Bobcats. You can never count out the Bobcats, but we'll have to see what happens in the good old Georgia hate as Georgia Southern, Georgia State play at 4 o'clock, a 1-8 matchup.
Yeah, that'll be a good matchup. But you were talking about the Bobcats. Bobcats have given up a lot of goals lately, and I'm not really in tune with the everyday goings on for soccer, but I don't know. I don't know if there's an injury bug going on with Texas State at the goalie position or not, but yeah, Texas State kind of fell apart at the end.
In addition to that, we're getting ready for basketball. Basketball tips off with exhibition games tonight on Tuesday night. A lot of teams beginning their exhibition schedule tomorrow on Wednesday before the season starts next Monday, Jeremy.
Yeah.
But really a disappointing start to the season with only 2 real games going on. ULM traveling to Texas A&M to open up their season on Monday night in College Station. The defending Sun Belt champion Texas State headed to Washington State for Pullman, Washington Pac-12 network game, 6:30.
Yeah, those should be exciting games for some people, I imagine. But I do know that I know it's basketball season. I'm very well aware, Dusty, that basketball season has come because I attended a Arkansas State press conference for the basketball team. Head coach Mike Bellato was in attendance to give us sort of an update on the team, where he thought how he thought the team was going to play, and which players he thought were going to make an impact. It was kind of nice to get back into the swing of those things. Maybe take a little break from football. You and I, Dusty, know how much of a grind this football year has been. It's been rough. It's kind of nice to have basketball come in and give us a little bit of diversion for a few solid weeks before it takes center stage.
It's just been another year of football grind. But did Mike Bellato address Norchad O'Meara again?
You gotta walk on tiptoes around Mike Bellotto when you talk about Norchad Omier, because he was pretty upset with how things went down with that. But he acknowledged, we don't have Norchad Omier anymore. He was the best player for Arkansas State, underneath the basket. So now he's talking more like, well, we'll probably have to replace his production with sort of a committee of players, which there's really no committee of players that can take the place of Norchad Omier, who's supposed to be starting for Miami this year. I guess we'll see how things work out for Mr. Omier in Miami. Wish him the best of luck. I was talking to our good friend Kara Ritchie on the internet today, talking about how I would have looked forward to this basketball season a lot more had Norchad Omier made good on his promise and come back to Arkansas State. But hey, you get what you can get. We've got some new players on the team that are very interesting. I'm going to put together a write-up before Arkansas State's exhibition game, which is with Voorhees. I know nothing about Voorhees. As far as I know, it's a school for mass murderers. But Arkansas State will be welcoming in Voorhees tomorrow night, 7:00 exhibition game. Admission is free. So if you're in the Jonesboro area, just come on by First National Bank Arena and you can watch the exhibition game.
Yeah, I don't think playing Voorhees College, although if they did come out in mask, that would be fantastic. I think that would definitely add to the flavor of the exhibition game.
Should they be like the Voorhees Machetes or the just should they really be I don't know, really be glamming up with that? Shouldn't they really embrace that and make it their thing? But or maybe they're just like, maybe they just pretend not to know what you're talking about when you're like, oh, you're like Jason Voorhees, and they're like, we don't get it. What are you talking? Do you think they're more like that?
Yeah, they probably don't get the reference. They, even though they are on the shores of Lake Crystal, I doubt that they get the reference.
So who does ULM? Do they have an exhibition game coming up?
No exhibition game.
The Warhawks? What?
None. They don't need exhibition games. They jump straight into the mix of it, going to Texas A&M.
Yeah, you know what? I'm of two minds about that, Dusty. One is there's nothing that brings you down more than when you have an exhibition game and you lose it, or you get a guy who's injured for the year because of it. That's happened at Arkansas State. So, but it's also good just to see if you can just get an opponent you can just pound, and you've got your guys like doing windmill dunks and behind the back passes. So you kind of want to see that in an exhibition game. It's a little tough to not just go into the season cold like I guess ULM's going to do against Texas A&M. That's going to be a solid look at what ULM is going to bring to the table.
I don't know if that's really a true glimpse of what we can expect, but I definitely think that it's a game that, you got to go to, you got to make the money, you got to have your solid appearance there on the SEC network.
Yeah, but knowing Coach Richard, he's going to have a crafty game plan for the Aggies. He's not going to be like, oh, I'm here for the paycheck. He's going to want to win that game. And
he's got Nika back. So, I mean, when you get Nika Metskavili back,
nice, yeah,
the Georgian wonder, that it's going to be a solid game. I'm anxious to see, because preseason poll, ULM picked 14th with 30 points. The next closest Southern Miss at 34 for the 13th place. There's no expectations going into the season. And I kind of like that, because there's not that hype. There's not the pressure. Like if you were Coach Bob Marlin in Louisiana, number one, there's all the pressure in the world with the best player in the conference of Jordan Brown, that you have to come out of the gates and really start rocking it. I mean, they open up with D3 Centenary, so I mean they're definitely going to kick off the season 1-0.
That you're absolutely right on that, and especially for guys like us, Dusty, whose football teams are suffering. So you can have a basketball team that you can check in on and enjoy who they play, and when they lose, you're like, oh, that's too bad. I really wanted to win. but it doesn't devastate you because the expectations are so low. So when they do win or they get on a win streak, it feels really good. And I'm kind of wanting to address the Red Wolf season that way. Like every year, you look at the roster of players and you start building them up in your mind, right? You're like, oh wow, this guy, he's actually a little underrated, and oh, this guy's coming back from injury. He's going to be really good. And you know what? I think our 3-point shooting is going to be a lot better than it was last year. And all of a sudden, in your mind, man, you're competing, right? I don't know if I feel that way this year.
I definitely look around the Sun Belt Conference and I see some big wins that the conference can have. I think the first real test is going to be the smart week, the smart game day, as we'll call it. November 11th, Southern Miss travels to Vandy, and the Raging Cajuns take on Harvard in a tournament in Asheville, North Carolina.
That is the smart week. Yeah, that's going to be pretty good. Huh. Hey, who else does ULM have that's sort of a big marquee name game? Is it just Texas A&M?
They travel to TCU later in the year. They'll play Louisiana Tech as a big I-20 rivalry game. But for the most part, in the words of Jay Walker, the home schedule just sucks.
I don't think there is a single Sun Belt program that the fans like the schedule. There's not like one group of fans that are like, wow, that's just a great schedule. I can't wait to look at that.
Yeah, it's crazy because there's some good games, none of which are really happening at home. Kennesaw State goes to App State. That's kind of a good mid-major matchup there. You have South Carolina Upstate playing Coastal Carolina, another good mid-major. Campbell, the Killer Camels there going to App State as well. Georgia State hosting crosstown school, Georgia Tech. But there's just not really that wow factor on the schedule. Texas State doesn't seem to want to play in the state of Texas. Everything's on the West Coast as they go to Washington State. I believe they're playing at San Jose State and then California later on.
Yeah. Yeah, the Red Wolves, we end up playing a lot of SWAC. We play like teams like Mississippi Valley State.
The Devils.
Yeah. Yeah, we got Lion this year. Really, our marquee game that's not within the Sun Belt is LSU, whom we open with on the 12th. So, or not open with, our opening game, the Red Wolves opening game is with Harding, which I don't even think counts on the net. I don't think it factors in.
Non-D1 doesn't factor.
Yeah. But, Blotto was kind of excited that Arkansas State was getting 18 home games this year, which I believe is a record number of home games for Arkansas State. So there's that. If you want to watch UC Davis, isn't that a fairly good mid-major?
No, not in basketball.
How about UT Martin?
Some years.
Yeah. Yeah, Prairie View. So, Air Force last year was supposed to be Arkansas State's, one of Arkansas State's kind of marquee peer conference schools. And then our Air Force turned out to be pretty bad. Arkansas State beat Air Force, but it wasn't like a marquee win by any stretch of the imagination.
But do you play Champion Christian, the school formerly known as Champion Baptist, that I believe several years ago lost by 125 points to a school?
No, we do not have them on the list. We do have Alabama State, but no. Yeah, I think we have maybe 3 SWAC schools. So, all right. So, you know what? You're kind of in tune with basketball a little bit more than I am, Dusty. Before we head and talk about, last week's football action and the next week's football action, who are your top 3 teams, do you think, going in for basketball this season? We'll have a big basketball show coming up, but just a taste. Who are the top 3 teams we need to look out for this year?
I think the big teams for me, Hell to the Chief. Coach TJ at Texas State. He's the king until he falls. Back-to-back championships. He's kind of got the pieces in place with Mason Harrell returning to try to make that run again.
Lost Asbury.
I mean, the Raging Cajuns there with Jordan Brown, that they got it going on. I mean, made it to the conference finals last year and fell just short in the tournament to Georgia State.
Seemed to really struggle last year, though. So I don't know. Maybe they get rid of those early season jitters and are strong from start to finish.
But got hot at the right time, I think. And I think that's key with everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think even with a new coaching staff, a new roster, you can't count out Georgia State. I don't know what's in the water there. Maybe they took some of the creek water there from Statesboro, but for basketball, you can never count out the Panthers, especially with the new arena. I think that they're going to do everything they can to try to have that crazy home field advantage or home court advantage, especially hosting Georgia Tech.
Yeah, I think we always expect Georgia State to be in that top tier simply because they place such a premium on basketball at Georgia State. So you always kind of think that they're going to do very well. And they were disappointing last year. They were the biggest disappointment of the season. Do you
during
see
the regular season?
Yeah, during the regular season, just kind of like Louisiana, they sort of bucked up. Do you see any of the newbies? Kind of we know our buddy Shane Mettlen, very high on James Madison this year.
James Madison picked third in Lindy's preseason, with Vado Morris being kind of their marquee player and go-to guy, Takil Morrison being the other guy to really shine, at least in the preseason eyes. I think you got to go with James Madison. If I had to pick a dark horse, though, I'm still sticking with Troy and Coach Scott Cross of what he can do down there.
I was thinking the same thing.
In Lower Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the preseason publications are big on South Alabama with Coach Ritchie reloading. I'm not buying into the Jaguars anymore. I'm team Troy.
Yeah, all right. Let's you and I make a pact right now, Dusty. Let us not get sucked into, I don't know, or beguiled by what we see in South Alabama. No more getting on the South Alabama train. We're done.
Sorry, JT, but no Jaguars.
Now, this is the year when they totally dominate. But,
they'll go coast to coast, and we'll still sit here going, nope, not picking them.
I can't put my money on them. All right, so that's kind of our mini basketball show, I guess. We'll go ahead. And surely, Dusty, we'll have a show, right?
We always have a show every week.
No, but we'll have a basketball show, basketball-centric show, right?
Sure, why not?
Hey, let's recap this football week. Why don't we do that?
Yeah, Warhawks didn't take an L. They took a bye, and we are grateful for that.
There were a lot of teams on bye in week 9, and that was probably good. I think a lot of people needed a rest, recharge. I know James Madison needed the rest. I know a couple other of the teams. Who else? Troy needed the rest. There were some teams that really needed to take a breather.
The big thing to me that I like looking at the standings for.
Okay.
There's only one team so far
that
will not be bowl eligible this season, and that is your Red Wolves. Unfortunately, Warhawks sitting at 2-6. Playing Texas State this week, they could join those ranks. But it's good to be this late in the year, and everybody still is kind of on the board.
Yeah, I actually got a little more pessimistic when I was putting together my week 10 analysis. I've isolated 4 teams that are pretty much out of everything. One of them is your Warhawks. I'm sorry. Arkansas State out of everything. I feel like Texas State really doesn't have much of a shot. And I feel like Marshall is gone. To me, that leaves 10 teams with realistically something to play for. What do you think of that analysis?
Texas A, they're desperate. And I mean that with all my love for the good old Boobcats.
Hell yeah.
3 wins, and they're dancing Spavs back for another year. We're all happy. We're all singing Kumbaya. We're all jumping into the river and floating to paradise. But when your schedule for the rest of the year is a trip to ULM, a trip to South, and then you host Arkansas State and the Cajuns, I only see 3 possible wins in there.
Yeah.
You better make damn sure that you're bringing your A game, your B game, and your C game each and every week.
Yeah, and you would think that Spavital would recognize the enormity of that moment and bring that A game. But we'll see. But before we talk about the future, I want to talk a little bit about the past. What did you think of that Coastal Marshall game? Coastal wins 24-13. They put up 21 points in the first quarter. It looks like it's going to be a blowout. And then don't get any more points until the fourth when they kick a field goal. Is it just Coastal's way to just sort of win by the bare minimum? Just kind of do the least amount of effort, pick up the W, and move on? Is there some sort of rope-a-dope I'm looking at here?
I mean, if you look at their games, that was by no means the widest margin game. It was at Georgia State where both teams sucked in the first half, and it was all second half. I feel like the Shants just coast, and no pun intended, coast along and do whatever they got to do to win. And I mean, tip of the cap to them that they're getting the wins, but there's nothing that's really just sticking out and really putting them over the top. They win the game, and that's it.
7-1, 4-1 in conference. Just somehow coming up with these wins, and the college football playoff top 25 came out. Didn't see Coastal Carolina there. Didn't see Troy, but still, the Coastal Carolina. You gotta give them credit for having the W, which is the ultimate statistic. But man, it is so hard to foresee these guys as being the conference champion in just the way that sort of lackadaisical way they seem to play. I mean, 3 points in 3 quarters. That's just crazy against Marshall.
You got to wonder also, with all the coaching carousel spinning at full force right now, if Jamie Chadwell isn't kind of taking a peek around college football to see if there's any jobs out there that maybe he wants in the post Grayson McCall era and the post Till era.
You know what? And there's a lot of good openings. I mean, right now it's kind of funny. The Auburn money is on Coach Hugh Freeze from Liberty. He just signed a $5 million contract, so that'll be interesting. And Lane Kiffin out of Ole Miss. Is Jamie Chadwell in that conversation, I wonder?
I think he's got to be, but you got to take a step back and ask yourself if you want to be in a place that's such a shit show that you only get a year and a half to try to win, and then you just get ousted. And really, the boosters tried to oust him over the summer. So he wouldn't even had the half year.
I mean, it is probably one of the most uncomfortable places to coach. And people are like, oh, yeah, Hugh Freeze, he would jump at that chance. I'm like, listen, he's at Liberty right now. He's making $5 million a year. And if he has an off year, no one's going to be checking his phone records at Liberty. They're just going to say, hey, go out, coach, have a better year next year. And Auburn, man, you have one bad game, and all of a sudden they're looking to throw you out on your ass. So I don't know who wants that Auburn job. I feel like Jamie Chadwell, though, if he wins the Sun Belt, he's got to go, right? I'm not necessarily to Auburn, but to somewhere, right? He can't without McCall. I mean, does Coastal Carolina continue to play well? I don't know.
And that is definitely the multi-million-dollar question there of what do the shots look like in the post Grayson McCall era, and knowing that is a huge question. Does Chadwell take that leap to go to Georgia Tech, to go to Auburn, to go to Arizona State, or any of the other schools that are out there right now with current openings? I think he does make the leap, if nothing else, for the paycheck.
Speaking of taking a leap, not quite the same kind of leap as Jamie Chadwell might be doing from Coastal Carolina, but Southern Miss has now won 3 conference games in a row, Dusty Thibodeaux. They find themselves right behind Troy and South Bama in the standings, and they just completely clobbered the Cajuns on a Thursday night, 39-24, which I didn't think Southern Miss even had that kind of offense. Is it time that we take Southern Miss seriously?
For their sake, I'm going to say no, because we've not taken them seriously to date, and they've done just fine. So I'm kind of fearful of giving them a little bit of South Alabama mojo if we start trying to fall for them. So no, they're gonna fail and burst into flames. The mustard buzzards for life.
So maybe that's where the Golden Eagles need to fly, beneath that radar. Just keep under that level of expectation and just keep quietly winning games. Maybe that's where they're comfortable. I got to hand it to Will Hall, though. He has really turned that program around. I also am a little bit worried for those Cajuns. Sure, they can beat the Arkansas States and the Marshalls of the world, but man, they just don't seem to have it when the caliber of play comes up just a little bit higher. So I feel like the Cajuns are cooked, but they're still technically in the hunt. Yeah, 2-3 in the Sun Belt. Here is a game that. Go ahead.
And the mustard buzzards, last 4 games of the year, they have Georgia State. I think that they can get that win, especially with it being at the Rock. Yeah. Going to Coastal, 50-50 shot, not knowing if you're going to get the shots that faced Old Dominion or the shots that do enough to get another dub, as we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Then I think what's going to become one of the bigger rivalry games of the Sun Belt West is going to be South Alabama and Southern Miss.
Yeah.
Then close it out at ULM. I think Southern Miss rebounds, gets a win, gets to 6, and is going to the postseason somewhere or another.
Okay. Yeah. Southern Miss, congratulations to those guys. I mean, kind of dug themselves out of a grave, and now suddenly people are talking about it. Speaking of digging out of the grave, here's a team that digs themselves a grave, then digs out of the grave, then redigs the grave, and then claws back out again. Georgia State really looked pretty dominating against Old Dominion last week, going 31-17. Georgia State never really sweat the game. Granger didn't have a great day passing, but had 100 yards rushing and a touchdown. I don't want to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway because it's a podcast and we need content. Is Georgia State? Are they going to make some trouble in the Sun Belt East?
Well, the bulk of their games that they have left, it's a split. They have 2 against the West, 2 against the East. I can see them playing spoiler for Marshall and keeping Marshall from getting that 6th win to close out the season. Will they beat James Madison in the grand scheme of games? That game doesn't matter because James Madison can't go to the postseason.
Yeah.
Georgia State's probably going to lose that one on the road. So then you're looking at ULM, Southern Miss, and Marshall as kind of their last 3 games. I think that they can get those wins. But I think that big one is going to be that Marshall game where they spoil the season for the Thundering Herd.
Yeah, well, Marshall only wins games against top 25 opponents, so that's going to be tough for Marshall. I don't want to really talk about Appalachian State, Robert Morris. It went as you'd expect. I want to talk about Appalachian State a little more in depth when we talk about Week 10. I will talk a little bit though about South Alabama and Arkansas State. Played in a monsoon, Tibbs. I was there. I mean, it rained from the opening minute to the very end. It was a wet, soggy, there was no enjoyment to be had if you're a Red Wolves fan for this game. 31-3, the final outcome. Arkansas State managed a field goal in the first quarter, didn't score the rest of the game. South Alabama got 162 yards and 3 touchdowns from LaDainian Webb, who turned that performance into a Sun Belt Offensive Player of the Week. South Alabama looked pretty good. Arkansas State looked really bad.
But now I think South Alabama has one of their toughest games to date this week when they go to Georgia Southern, because the Eagles, especially in Paulson, they're just about unstoppable. And then you throw Van Trees into the mix, and I could see the Eagles getting another win over the Jaguars.
Yeah, and South Bama really needs that win if they want to keep up with Troy. Troy is almost on autopilot, just sort of pounding people in submission. I don't want to say they've got the Sun Belt East in hand, but man, South Alabama, after losing to Troy, really needs to find some way to even
Troy's in the West, though, by the way, Jeremy.
Oh, did I say East? I meant the West. I do this a lot.
I mean,
maybe, I get looking.
I mean, if you win the conference, though, technically you're the king of the East and the West, though, right?
Yeah, that's right. It's like you might be king of the North, but you're also the king of the whole world. So, yeah. And that's really the recap. I mean, unless you have something derogatory that you'd like to say about Arkansas State, you're welcome to do that, because we would deserve any criticism from Dusty Thibodeaux.
Yeah, I got nothing. I mean, when one of your own media outlets can't even think of the name of their quarterback, I'm not going to dogpile on it.
I hope one day to live that down.
No, I will let it live on for forever.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. That's fine. Hey, you know what's time? Is it ready? Are we ready for second and short?
I'm always ready for second and short.
All right, you know the rules, Dusty. You know, we go through each game and of the upcoming week, and we talk about for about 2 minutes, and then we go on to the next game. We try to keep it short because there have been some complaints, Dusty. I'm not going to say who's been making the complaints, because honestly, I don't know. That Fun Belt podcast can run a little bit long, and we're trying to condense, right? We're trying to make it easily digestible for the people. Are you with me?
One of the downsides of having open DMs.
It is time for second and short. Are you ready to cross this goal line, Dusty?
Let's kick it off for Thursday.
Thursday, November 3rd. You know what? We just kind of start off with the premier game of the week. Appalachian State at Coastal Carolina. Not on ESPN2. Not on ESPNU. But on ESPN, the flagship station in the ESPN universe.
That was definitely set before the season began.
Well, you think? I don't know. This is a great game. Dusty, tell me what you think when I say Appalachian State at Coastal.
I mean, the Mountaineers have won 2 straight. Grant you, one of them was this past week against Robert Morris. Poor guy. It's in Conway. It's Till. It's Grayson McCall going up against Chase Bryce. What more could you want except for the fact that App State has laid some eggs this year? I think it's another chance win. It's close, but I think it's another chance win.
So the Mountaineers are actually a 3-point favorite, which I found interesting. In fact, Vegas has picked a lot of visiting teams by like 2 or 3 points. But one thing I feel about this game is that that Appalachian State, if they don't win this game, they're out. And not only that, I think it really puts most of the Sun Belt East out. Like everybody with if Coastal Carolina ends up 5-1 after this game, I don't know if anybody can catch up with Coastal Carolina.
Not on the east side. I think this is definitely the de facto semifinal there on the eastern side. It is what it is. You know, the Mountaineers have their backs against the wall. They got to win 7 to be 6 wins on the year. It's a question of how bad do they want it, and do they want to keep digging for it?
When was the last time that you've seen the Mountaineers be cornered into a must-win game of the year that wasn't against the Cajuns?
I would almost have to date back to their FCS days of going to the playoffs.
I think you're right. I don't recall. I don't feel like Appalachian State has been in this situation in a very long time. It will be interesting to see how Coach Sean Clark and Chase Bryce, if they really recognize the gravity of this situation, come into Conway, be all business. You're thinking Chanticleers pull it out. I'm kind of leaning towards Appalachian State. I think it's going to be a great Thursday night game on ESPN. I can't wait to watch it. You know, so Dusty, there's just a lot of games that are they're all kind of pickups, right? This is one of those games. Marshall at Old Dominion, 1 p.m. on ESPN Plus. A battle of Sun Belt newbies, the Thundering Herd and the Monarchs. What's your initial impression?
Pick them as an understatement. I think that this is a game that's really tough to pick, because we know that Marshall has all the right pieces if they're fully healthy. And Labram has really come in and dominated the run game, more so that we even forget about Ali, who was supposed to be Mr. Everything in the backfield. But I just like that Old Dominion Monarchs defense. I mean, they got a guy that's had like 4 games with 20 plus tackles. Crazy. And then you throw in Wolf, you throw in Watson, you throw in Jennings. I think the Monarchs handle business and get the win.
You know, I want to think the same thing for all the reasons that you've mentioned. I was really surprised by how well Georgia State played against the Monarchs. You know, they ran that ball 50 times on the Monarchs and came up with 223 yards as a result. I mean, that is just grinding, pounding, in-your-face football that Georgia State put together against the Monarchs, and it worked. I don't know. That's the thing about Marshall. They have a good run game. You know, they've got, Labrum and what have you. They can run the ball. I wonder if they see what Georgia State did and go, okay, that's how you beat the Monarchs. But I can't know for sure if, Vegas has the Thundering Herd at 3 points in this one. I think I go with Old Dominion because of the hometown atmosphere. But man, I would not be surprised, Dusty, if the Thundering Herd finds a way to win this game.
I just want to see Charlie Huff dance again.
Hasn't had much reason to dance. I think what they need to do is imagine a number next to the Monarch's name, and that would give them the motivation to win this game. I mean, if they can beat number 25 James Madison and number 8 Notre Dame, they need to play number 15 ODU and find that will to win. A very sneaky good game coming up at 2 p.m. on ESPN Plus. Georgia State, which is coming off that win against ODU, versus Southern Miss, who has won 3 straight, including a pretty convincing win against Louisiana on a Thursday night. Again, it's a pick'em from Vegas. What's it for Dusty? Is it a pick'em for Dusty?
As we said earlier, I like the Mustard Buzzards in this, but I just can't pick them for their own good. So I'm going Georgia State and thinking that the record-setting rushing attack that Tucker Gregg had that put him as the career leader rusher in Panther history with over 2,100 yards, he just racks up more in the win. Wink, wink, nod, nod.
Tucker Gregg, he's like one of those guys who seems to have been in the league forever. And he never seems to be a guy who like comes up with 150 yards. It's always like 78 hard-nosed yards. Congratulations, by the way, to Tucker Gregg for becoming the Panthers all-time leader in rushing. He deserves it. Southern Miss, they have that nasty boys defense, which ODU's defense was a little bit different. ODU's defense is more like, let's bend until the 20, right? Well, Southern Miss is kind of like, let's get after you. Let's be more physical up front. Let's get some sacks. Let's get some TFLs. And for a while, I just didn't think Southern Miss had much of an offense until I saw what they did to the Cajuns. So maybe they found that too behind their freshman quarterback. It's at Southern Miss, so it's in Hattiesburg. You can't discount that. But you know what, Dusty? I just feel like I kind of feel like you. I feel like Georgia State is just the more mature team right now. I think they come in and win this game. Although in Hellraiser, my exact words are, honestly, I have no pick here. I'm helpless.
It's always bad to be helpless there, Jeremy.
Two teams that are not helpless at all. Dusty Thibodeaux, 3 p.m. ESPN Plus. South Alabama, which has the nation's the 15th ranked defense, goes up against Georgia Southern, who has the number 1 ranked offense in the Sun Belt and the 11th in the nation. Dusty, how does this come out?
Depends. Does the Eagle get lost again?
Oh, you are jinxing that Eagle.
Well, it worked out for him last time. So, I mean, if that was the case, I'd have a guy out in the parking lot with a mouse or whatever those things eat, kind of baiting him to hook a right there, as Danny Reed said.
Yeah, that might be the play.
I mean, I love the Jags, but Van Treese, Helton going for win number 6 on the season in order to get the bowl eligibility. Eagles are going to get the win.
I'm kind of with you on this. I really believe what Clay Helton has accomplished here has been nothing short than a college football miracle. And he has become like I don't know, passing offense Jesus out there in Statesboro. It's incredible. Now, we both like Kane Womack, and we know Kane's been doing a great job in South Alabama. The governor.
He's already bowl eligible, so for the league, we need another team.
Oh, definitely. But, man, that is going to be a great, great matchup of good defense versus great offense. And, yeah, Kyle Van Treese, you know what? Georgia Southern, they took some time off last week. They got well. They got healthy. South Alabama practically took some time off playing against Arkansas State, fine-tuning. It's going to be a really good game between these two. Jaguars are favored by 4 in this game. Again, it's the visiting team coming in with the Vegas advantage. But I'm with you. I think, even though Carter Bradley and Jalen Wayne have this remarkable chemistry, and they got Damian Webb at South Alabama running so well right now, I just can't bet against Van Treese in Statesboro. I think I'm going to go with Georgia Southern too.
Sipping out of the ditch.
To me, this is the only game, Thibodeaux. This next game coming up, that's not a pick'em. At least within the conference, it's not a pick'em. Troy at Louisiana, 4 p.m. on ESPN Plus. Troy favored to win 6 points, even though they're at Louisiana, where we know that Cajun Field is a very tough place to play. Still, Troy looks more complete than any other team in the Sun Belt West. What do you think, Dusty?
We spoke earlier about records there with Tucker Gregg at Georgia State. Ben Woolridge doing it again. most passing yards in program history with a 370 mark. I like the Cajuns. I feel like that they have found themselves again and they are rolling on. I'm sorry, Coach Sumlin, but I like the homestanding Cajuns.
Even though they got just busted by Southern Miss, you're like, the Cajuns are still dangerous.
Cajuns are still dangerous, especially at home.
Could be. I don't know. I feel like John Summerall. I think he's got this team in a professional stage of a professional state of mind. I feel like they can go to any field. They went to Boone and should have won that game, for instance. They went to South Alabama and they won that game. I don't know if they're going to be intimidated about being in Lafayette. It's 6 points for Troy. If I'm gambling, I think I pick that. But I also think Troy wins this outright. So this is where you and I, Dusty, we're going to disagree. This is going to be our big disagreement game. We'll be looking to see who's the real conference insider by the result of this game. Oh, no, you're right about Ben Woodridge. The guy knows how to throw the ball.
Slanging.
But maybe is it just because the Warhawks beat the Cajuns and you want the Cajuns to be a little bit better than they really are?
No, I really do. I think that the Cajuns have found themselves. I think that they got kind of hung up on that winning streak. Whenever it went down, they didn't know what their direction was, what they were supposed to be doing, but that they have since rebounded and now just rolling on.
All right, this game is probably going to be really tough for you, Dusty, because it's between two teams that are near and dear to your heart. One is your beloved Warhawks. The other is sort of your adopted Texas school, Texas State. 4 p.m., ESPN3. Somebody's coming out of Malone Stadium with 2 conference victories. Who do you think it's going to be?
Or they just keep playing forever and ever. Amen. Look,
that would be great.
It's no secret. The Warhawks are amazing at home. Texas State, desperate for a win. Lane Hatcher got the win last year in Malone Stadium. He knows how to win. Lincoln Pear was there as well.
Yeah.
Several Warhawks have already started hitting the portal. I think that the Warhawks are starting to kind of roll over on the season.
Ooh.
I think the Bobcats go in and sneak away with a dub.
When I was first doing my write-up, I was ready to pick Texas State. And then I kind of noticed what Texas State has been doing the last few games. They can't seem to score points. They've scored 14 points the last 2 games, while the defense has done pretty well. The defense has held opponents to 20 or less in these losses. And for whatever reason, the Bobcats cannot muster enough offense to close out these victories. And one thing that ULM, in my opinion, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, it doesn't feel like the Warhawks struggle that badly with scoring points. And then when you think about them being at Malone, where, it's very tough to play, and Texas State being a team that doesn't really play that well on the road, the Warhawks are favored by 1 point. The ultimate pick'em. That isn't an actual pick'em from Vegas. I think I am going with the Warhawks. I convinced myself midway through my own review that it was the Warhawks who were going to win this game.
I can only hope, pray that you are correct.
I guess we'll see. I think both teams they have issues. Both teams have issues. I think ULM has a really good front defensive line. I think they're going to prevent Texas State from scoring like they haven't been able to score the last few games. I see ULM coming out with the dub on this, keeping their postseason hopes alive at least for another week. Last game on the docket. This is like my upset of the week, Dusty. Every time I look at this, it just gets better and better. James Madison at Louisville. 6:30 on ESPNU. Jimmy Mads, yes, they've lost 2 games and their top 25 ranking before heading into a bye. But damn, you got to think Coach Signetti is going to be all business. I mean, he's already closed the practice to the reporters. And if he can get their quarterback, whose name suddenly escapes me.
Thibodeaux.
Yes, Thibodeaux, thank you. If they can get him back, they've got the bye. Let's hope that he's healthy. I just feel like this is an upset win for James Madison, and they get back on the horse. What do you think? What do you think about my analysis for this?
I like James Madison, but with Thibodeaux having been out, them having dropped, is it 2 straight games?
Yeah.
I think the real UL rolls in this one, and James Madison is snapped back into the reality of P5 VG5.
Was that a little bit of passive aggression that I heard from you, calling Louisville the real UL?
I have never done such thing.
Oh, yeah. You know what? We were talking to our good friend Shane Mettlen. We were wondering, does Todd Centeio, does he come back? And if he comes back, is that the domino that causes this upset? I think it does. I guess we'll see. I don't know. I'm going to be honest with you, Dusty. I don't know much about the Cardinals. Have they played well this season? Are they doing good? Do you know?
Yeah, they're doing okay in the ACC. Are they contenders? No, but they do still have a upcoming game against Clemson that could put them into the ACC championship game if all the cards fall into place.
Oh, I get what you did there. So it's still Scott Satterfield, right? That's coaching Louisville. Is that right?
State head coach. That is correct.
Former Sun Belt legend coach Scott Satterfield, who led Appalachian State to so many championships, hasn't quite done the same with the Cardinals. But I guess we'll see. I think, first of all, it's just a good game to have at 6:30 on ESPNU on a Saturday night. I think it's going to be a good game for the Sun Belt. It'll be a really good game if James Madison can shake off this losing bug and come up with a victory. And that's it. That's it, Dusty. We have finished second and short. We have crossed the goal line. We have delivered the touchdown. You are spiking the ball. We have like a fancy handshake. Second and short is complete. Week 10 is in the books, and all we have to do is collect the cash from our respective bookies.
Did you say boogie?
No, I did. I could have. Yeah, boogie night. Let's hope that he gets on the. Let's hope he puts on his boogie shoes against Texas State. Am I right?
Yeah. Time for plugs, promos, and parting shots on that note.
Oh, okay. Oh, should I go first since you kind of introduced it?
Please do.
All right. Well, all right. So it's a bye week for Arkansas State football, but Arkansas State basketball is coming up, led by Coach Thibodeaux. He's got about 7 new faces on the team, made necessary because superstar forward Norchad Omier bounced from Arkansas State to Miami, so that's a pretty tough production to fill. So there will be a Red Wolves basketball preview coming up in Hellraiser either tomorrow or the next day. I hope to get in before the what you call it, the exhibition game with Voorhees tomorrow night. My parting shot is the college football playoff committee has delivered its first top 25. Not surprising. No Sun Belt in there, which just kind of chaps me a little bit, though. I mean, the Sun Belt really has been the strongest, in my opinion, the strongest of the group of 5 conferences. But the committee's still sort of old-fashioned, still just kind of looking at the American as the place to go to dig up group of 5 teams to put into the top 25. They picked Tulane and UCF. Tulane, as we all know, got beat by Southern Miss. So I don't know. I don't know if Tulane really deserves to be there when there's so many great Sun Belt teams that, in my opinion, belongs in the top 25. I'm biased, I realize it, but I'm still a little peeved. Back to you, Dusty Thibodeaux.
Next week's election day. Make sure you get out and vote. Make sure you, well, it's too late to register. So make sure if you are registered, you get out to vote.
Okay. I will be doing that.
And then after that, make sure you follow us on Twitter, Funbelt PC,
Mm-hmm.
Warhawk_report,
I
A-State
vote for that.
Fan Rules.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Search for Shane Mettlen because I don't remember his Twitter account.
You know what? Just type in Shane Mettlen in the magnifying box, and you'll find Shane.
And hopefully we can find him for next week.
It would be good to dig him up because he really does give us, I don't know, an air of legitimacy because he works for a newspaper, unlike you and I, who are just sort of blog scribes and message board guys. You know, it's good to have a guy from the legitimate press be here and sort of correct us when we go astray.
Yeah, but we always go astray, so we definitely bring the show down.
There's no helping that. No magic potion to increase the quality of Fun Belt podcast. That's too bad.
Your neighborhood just got cooler with Kroger Delivery's refrigerated trucks. Simply order groceries at the same great prices online as in-store, and we'll bring them to you fresh every time. And if that wasn't cool enough, you can now earn 4 times the fuel points after 4 with your digital coupon. Choose a next-day Kroger delivery time slot for 4 p.m. or later on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. Must deliver by February 4th. Restrictions apply. See Kroger.com for details.